This is part 2 of my discussion with David Hiscox. I'll leave a link to part 1 in the description. If you haven't seen it, go watch it now. Otherwise, enjoy.
A lot of what you're talking about as well, it's just the pure Marxism of the way our society is organised.
Yeah.
When you look at what Marx actually said, and the idea preceded him, but he articulated it. He came up with the concept that a worker in France has more in common with a worker in Germany than he does with an aristocrat in France.
Yeah.
And so that was the original dividing line to pit one section of a country against another section of a country.
Yeah.
And so what we've seen since then with cultural Marxism, postmodernism, critical theory, whatever you want to call this virus, this brain AIDS.
It's states, separation of church and state is good, but we need to separate schools and state.
Yes,
We need to separate the economy and state. We basically, the state has only three functions: to protect life, to protect liberty, and to protect property.
Yes.
And that's it. That's all. That's all it has a moral license to do. And now that they're not protecting our property, they're taking our money at gunpoint. People, you're allowed to bloody abort children after 3 months. I mean, some people don't think you should be allowed to abort at all, but even so, they are allowing abortion. So they're not protecting life. They're letting people in from other countries who want us dead. So they're failing to. Australia is doing better than other countries, but you look at especially Europe, where they're genuinely failing in to protect the life of their citizens. And they're taking away our liberty constantly. Like, there's new laws, nanny state laws, speed limit laws. Just think of any area, and they are taking away our liberty. So the government has got, not only is it failing to do those three things, it's actively working against them.
Yes. If we don't separate state from the rest of everything that makes us who we are, then the state divides us against who we are. It divides man against woman. It divides straight against gay. Divides black against white.
Exactly.
And that's one of the big things that Milo talks about, which is fantastic. Going back to my second takeaway, back to Debbie Brennan, and just a lot of the other activists who are at the Milo event. What you find is that whenever you have these demonstrations, whether it's for refugees, whether it's for same-sex marriage, whether it's against Milo, any other of the big issues that have been going on in the last couple of years, the ones against Reclaim Australia, it's always the same small group of people. And the thing that connects them all, almost all of the time, is the socialist alternative.
Yeah.
And when they're not socialist alternative, they're part of some other Marxist group. And it's a very small group of people. And these people drive an agenda. And then the media doesn't say who they are. And so that creates the impression that there's a groundswell, like a grassroots movement for these progressive ideas. When really it's pure Marxism being driven by Marxists. And being covered for by Marxists. So one of the great things I think that we've been doing on XYZ is to expose who these people are and say, look, they turned up here, here, and here, and here.
The same people.
The same people every single time.
And they were the same people that during the gay marriage debate, they went and protested at a church. Because people just wanted to talk about, have an opinion on gay marriage that they didn't like.
And then they made up a story about how a car hit them.
Oh yeah, car hit. And the media sort of just ran with it almost unquestioningly. It's like, oh, they ran at us. But no, you can just see on the camera they were just trying to drive through and these idiots were blocking the way. I mean...
It's the same type of people who see somebody blowing a kiss and think it's higher.
Oh,
It's the same logic. Like, they're doing... It's like they're gaslighting you in the very moment that it's
the irony, like what... These people are so stupid and so ignorant of reality and history is that Adolf Hitler was a National Socialist.
Yes.
He was a socialist. And with that, we were talking about the welfare state before. 1930s Germany had one of the biggest welfare states in history. One of the biggest welfare states in history. Prices were controlled. The money was completely controlled by the government. And all they did, it was just, the reason they went to war, a big reason that Hitler went to war was to get extra food and extra land for his people, and by taking it off other countries. So they go to Poland, loot the country, and then go and just say, here's all our stuff. Look at all this stuff. Look how great we are. And
If
it's no.
if the National Socialists had won World War II, the National Socialist Empire would have collapsed for the same reason that the Soviet Union
Exactly,
collapsed.
it would have
There would
collapsed.
have been bread lines.
The thing is, it would have collapsed. There would have been a lot more misery and suffering. And the thing is, maybe now we would have learned our lesson.
Tell you what, they would have been hard pressed to kill as many as the Soviets killed.
Yeah, or the Chinese, 55 million people, and I think the Soviets, 30 million people. Best guesstimate, really. There's just that many people were killed by an oppressive and brutal ideology. I mean,
really, that should be where our white guilt is.
I know.
These horrible ideas like Marxism have come out of the West and just wiped out massive populations.
To be ideological guilt, and we should be shaming these people like these. Was it Deborah Brennan or whatever? Debbie Brennan and
Skeletor. Have you seen her face?
No, I haven't seen her.
Just this. She's a ranger, and she's got this just skeleton face, and nothing else. Ugh. She literally looks like Skeletor.
These people, like, they are soulless. What possesses someone to look at an ideology that has caused that much brutality and that much suffering in such a short period of time? It's literally the most destructive ideology ever. Literally the most destructive ideology ever. If you go on a death per 100 years basis, these people still think it's a good idea. And not only do they think it's a good idea, they are willing to attack people, slander them, beat them up, say the most idiotic things in order to further the agenda of what is an evil ideology in every objective standpoint. Anything that comes out of Marxism, so socialism, communism, fascism, all these things are objectively immoral, and these people are so willing to push it because they think that somehow it makes them good people, and it's hard to fathom how someone could delude themselves so comprehensively.
I think Ayn Rand really saw into their souls. Like, she realized that communism suits them. These people have made the calculation that having a society where we take away from the most productive people and their resources are given to me, that suits them.
Exactly. Yeah. Because they can't make it in the free market on their own. Yeah. In a lot of cases.
The scary thing about that is that there may always be a natural constituency against libertarian ideas. And that's something that we have to work past.
I have I submitted an essay to the Spectator. Sorry. Some water went down the wrong way. I should have a little bit more.
Yeah, I know.
I submitted an essay to the Spectator. They haven't got back to me yet. I don't know whether they'll publish it or not. But if they don't publish it, it's an essay on how democracy fails or why democracy fails and how to fix it. And my solution for democracy is, first of all, to take away the franchise, so take away the vote from anyone who takes a single cent from the government and doesn't put their life on the line in service of the country. So you're on welfare, you're a bureaucrat, you're a politician. Any of these people, you take even $1, you are not allowed to vote in the next election. In the next election, both state, federal, and council elections. So $1, next election, you are excluded from that, unless, if you're a police officer, firefighter, and, public service ambulances. These guys, because they put their lives on the line, I think that they should be allowed to have the vote in return. And I actually think any frontline soldier, so if you're in the Defence Force and you've done a tour of duty overseas, you should get the vote forever. But other than that, I think what that would do, because you could take it away from anyone who's if you're in a publicly funded university, so you obviously got one single cent. If your university is publicly funded, you've got money from the government. If you're a contractor, someone who contracts through the government, if you take money from the state to do any kind of project, you lose the vote. What that would do is completely remove the incentive for the government to take money off someone else and take money off you and hand it to them. So to rob Peter to pay Paul. They'd have no incentive to do that. They wouldn't be like, what's the point of stealing off one person to buy votes off someone else if the person you're buying votes off can't actually vote for you?
That idea would completely restore just a balance that existed in the West in about the 1900s.
Yeah. Which is the most libertarian time in history. Also the time when living standards rose for the normal person more than any other time in history, in fact.
Yeah. What we've seen in the 20th century is how the electoral system has been just subverted to essentially get the government to bribe people for votes.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Who is the guy who realised democracy could be undermined if the government if the people realised that they can vote?
It was a
free money?
Scottish historian.
Was it
It was a Scottish historian. I actually wrote about it in my essay. I can't remember his name, but he was, I think, in the late 1700s. Democracy fails when half the population realise that they can vote themselves largesse of the
I guess you can put his
treasury.
name up in letters.
Yeah.
On the video.
Yeah. I'll put his. I will. Oh, yeah, it's a good point. I'll put his name up there on the video so you can see it, and wait for the essay, which I'm gonna. If it doesn't get published in the Spectator, or even if it does, I'm gonna make a YouTube video about it anyway because it's interesting. I'd actually go one step further. I'd go full anarchist and say that the government wasn't allowed to raise money unless it was voluntary. In that, I'd say, well, if you want the vote, you register for the vote, but the vote comes with the right for the government to tax you, but you can opt out whenever you want. Mm-hmm. So if you don't want to be taxed, you can just say, well, I don't want to vote. But if you do want to vote, you must accept the tax burden that the government places on you. Here's the thing: that would make taxation not theft. Because
it would be voluntary.
Because it would be voluntary and you could opt out any time. I think most people would actually opt in. I think most people who were working in the free market would opt in.
Well, people give their tithes to church and that sort of stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. You give your tithe to church.
They give money to charities.
Yeah. And what would happen is the government would have to lower the tax rate significantly.
Yes.
It would be, down to maybe, I think they could probably get away with 5%. I think most people would be happy to part with 5% of their income, so long as it gave them the right to have a say in how that money is being spent. And if it ever got too high, then you could just say, well, I'm just not going to pay it. I need that extra money. I'm not going to pay it.
I think I would happily give money to the government as long as it came with the condition that we would build a Death Star, or at the very least a Star Destroyer.
Yeah, I think I saw a video once on how much that would cost. I think it would cost like 20,000 human economies, like Earth economies. Yeah, something ridiculous.
I saw a diagram for it, actually. Somebody drew a diagram of the Death Star. They just drew a circle.
It's like, all right, well, that was good. Okay, so we'll just, speaking of the Death Star, Star Wars is out next week. Yeah. So Star Wars episode...
It's tomorrow.
Tomorrow, is it? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it is the 15th.
As we speak tomorrow.
Yeah, as we speak tomorrow. We're filming this on the 14th of December. So it comes out tomorrow on the 15th of December. I'm hoping that they don't push the social justice a little bit further like they did in the last one. I enjoyed episode 7. I thought it was fun. It was obviously very, very much like the first episode 4. They really copied that a lot. They updated it. They added characters. They had a little bit more depth. I hope that they don't copy episode 5, and I really hope they don't push the social justice.
I think it's inevitable.
You think it's I hope that it's not noticed, because I didn't quite notice it. I think I'm probably a little bit numb to it all, like a lot of people, but I didn't quite notice it until I went back and watched it a second and third time. Then you really notice it, but it's not overpowering. It's there, but it doesn't take away from the movie too much. It's just an annoying. It's just like an annoying sibling. It's like, social justice, go away. Let me watch people blowing each other in spaceships. I'm hoping that they don't go too far with it and they stick to what made the original Star Wars good and what made episode 7 good, and that wasn't social justice. That was space fights and lightsaber fights.
Lightsaber battles, pitched battles.
The death grip. I remember seeing the death grip for the first time when I was a kid, and I was just like, whoa, I wish I could do that.
I think the social justice is inevitable, and having thought about what makes Star Wars, it's made me reevaluate the whole brand.
Yeah.
If we look at the first two, the new Star Wars ones that come out, The Force Awakens and Rogue One, when you look at who the central characters were, the protagonists, the central good guys, there were no new straight white men.
It's true. Well, because Poe Dameron is supposedly gay.
He's a space Mexican.
A space,
That's about.
He's about as white. He's as white as they get. Yeah, there were no.
And there's another space Mexican in Rogue One as well.
The bad guy was Kylo Ren, who was the straight white man,
Yeah.
assumingly, but
Oh, in Force Awakens.
he was the bad guy.
He was the bad guy.
But he might be a good guy. I've been watching too many film theories.
Well, I've been watching a fair bit about that too.
Yeah.
It's the thing. If the makers of the new movie have explicitly stated on Twitter that the Empire is a white supremacist organization, but they're not giving us any good white guys to fight against it. Seriously, they can program us. They can socialize us to identify with people who are not in our in-group as much as they want. But if they don't give us any good straight white men, we're going to start associating with the bad guys. And it's why Darth Vader is so popular. He's just cool.
Yeah, exactly.
He's got the cool suit. Like, I know the Emperor didn't make it as good because he wanted to keep him as his slave. But he's got the death grip. He's got the red lightsaber. Who wants that?
And the deep voice.
And the deep voice. Yeah, who wants that?
You failed me for the last time, Commander.
That's it.
Everyone like, oh, what a badass.
That's it. Who wants that weak little pale blue lightsaber that Luke Skywalker has, and he's like, ooh, I can't use my emotions. And when you realize that, you realize that Star Wars, and this is a bit confronting for people, and it's taken me a few years to deal with it.
Yep. Star
Wars has always been about communism.
Mm.
Yeah. When you look at the original Star Wars, the Jedi are basically Buddhists. And back in the 1970s and early 1980s, Buddhism was pretty countercultural. These days it's whatever. But it was a great way to undermine Christian ideas with ideas from an outside civilization.
Mm.
And when you look at who the Jedi are, they're about peace and harmony and all that sort of stuff, but it's the same kind of mindset that gives you the intelligence to develop gunpowder, but not high-powered guns.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
And so the Empire, and the dark side, they're people who harness their emotions, their basest emotions, and they channel them to doing something with it. In the same way that Western civilization has harnessed all our basest instincts and channeled it to make the greatest empire that the world has ever seen.
Yeah, true. It is. Yeah.
And when you look at the story of, say, Han Solo, it's it's interesting because I know George Lucas was into Ayn Rand.
Yeah.
It's like he's written a reversal of an Ayn Rand narrative. Han Solo starts out as a guy who only looks out for himself.
Yeah.
But throughout the course of the movies, he just sacrifices himself again and again. He sacrifices his own, his own, what is it?
Safety.
He sacrifices everything.
Yeah.
Almost his life for the rebel cause. Even to the point where at the end of Return of the Jedi, he's prepared to cuck himself for Luke Skywalker. He is, isn't he? Yeah, I saw that thing in your eye. You realise?
Yeah, it's true.
And George Lucas has explicitly stated that Return of the Jedi was basically presenting the North Vietnamese fighting against the Americans.
Yeah.
And so it was a native army rising up against their imperial oppressors. It was post-colonialism.
Interesting. It's an interesting take on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, the argument is made, with the whole hand shot first, that, back in the day, that was when men were men, and, it was okay to, just be a little bit dangerous, and Han could shoot the guy, because he was shooting, he was pointing a gun at him.
Yeah.
But then George Lucas could have sort of wimped out and, wanted to make it a bit more that, he's not killing the alien who... He's not
Han shot first.
Yeah, he's not being oppressive. Yeah. He was acting in self-defense. But I just see the whole thing as a natural progression of George Lucas just updated the new Star Wars, the old Star Wars movies, to the new cultural Marxist paradigm.
Ah, okay, yeah.
And so for that reason, yes, I'm gonna love the new Star Wars. It's gonna be amazing. As you said, space battles, lightsaber fights. It's gonna have everything. But it's gonna be just social justice to the core.
It wouldn't surprise me at all, and it'll be really disappointing because social justice is cancer. It destroys everything that it touches. It's you have a look at Marvel Comics, Hollywood, politics, just the academics, just everywhere that social justice has put its little tentacles, just goes to shit. It goes bad, and you'd think these people would sort of learn from the mistakes of others. A wise man learns from the mistakes of others. The rest of us have to be the others. It's they're seeing, all these other companies going down the social justice path and thinking, you know what? I don't think they failed because of social justice. I don't think it's not
They
real,
need more
not real
social
social justice.
Social
not
justice
real
has
social
never been
justice.
tried, yeah.
Social justice hasn't been tried. It's like just shut up and give us space battles. That's all I want. And it's interesting your take on the Star Wars saga. I mean, yeah, look, I could see that, but at the same time, I'm like, it's also an age-old story of the little guy standing up to the big guy. Mm-hmm. So I mean, there could be that sort of undertones, or like fighting against the imperial. Obviously, they're fighting against the imperial oppressor for freedom and all that kind of thing. But also, it's like, you can also just see it as, the American Civil War. In that the Americans fighting against the evil English for freedom and all that kind of thing. So you could actually see it from that point of view, and you can see it from that point of view in that all the good guys have American accents and all the bad guys have English accents.
Like the War of Independence.
Yeah, you like the War of Independence. So you can see it, you can interpret it in one of many ways.
Who would you rather dress as? Like a rebel from like the Battle of Endor, or a stormtrooper?
Oh, stormtrooper. Yeah. Always a stormtrooper. Like Darth Vader. Darth Vader would be the best.
Yeah. Sorry, you were going to say, what was the point?
Oh no, that's it. I think we've covered some pretty good topics. I think we've gone a good length. And thanks for coming.
It's been a real pleasure.
No worries. Hopefully we'll do it again soon. Thanks for watching, and hopefully we'll see you next time.
Join the dark side.
Yeah, or the dark side's really the good side.
Yes. Vader did nothing wrong.
Hope you enjoyed the talk. Don't forget to leave a comment and like, and if you go and check out all my other stuff, you could always subscribe. You can support the channel through PayPal, and I'll see you around.